Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. And in this update, we are going to check out XRP and also XLM's price chart and see what is happening in the short term. And I actually think that in both of these charts, we are able to identify some very much optimistic signs. And first things first, apologies for my terrible voice. I recently caught a very bad cold, and unfortunately, you have to bear with me for the next couple of days. Now, let's talk about XRP first, because if you remember the last time that we talked about XRP, we were, I think, right around the highs, and the idea was that, well, okay, the fact that we are having a very strong bounce off of this very important cluster of support area is definitely an optimistic sign, but that's not really enough. Why is that? Pay attention to this thing. This will also come handy when we go on a stellar lumens chart as well. You see, in terms of Elias waves, if you want to be optimistic on any chart from any market, you have to be able to find off of the recent lowest low a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up. This specific scenario is called an impulsive movement. Rules for it are: we should not have overlapping of the waves between wave 2 and 4, and in any kind of 5 wave or wave 3, it's just simply not allowed to be the smallest wave. And in terms of the sub waves, you know what's going on. We're gonna have 5 wave up into wave 1, 3, and 5. And for our wave 2 and 4, we can have different possibilities. Let's say, sure, ABC into wave 2 and maybe like a WXY in this instance into our wave 4. Now, having a 5 wave off of the lows is definitely, I would say, a necessary condition. However, it's not really enough. And this is really the key point. You see, after completing a 5 wave, you just have to be a little bit more patient and see, are we going to have a pullback in form of like a very slow and choppy move on the downside? And if we are actually seeing a very slow move, okay, my friends, that's actually a characteristic of a corrective movement, meaning what? Hopefully, off of the lows, we are having 5 up into 1, correction for 2, and what's next? Great move on the upside into wave 3 and 4 and 5. Now, let's go on the live chart and see what is happening in XRP. And we also talked about this in the previous video as well. I don't really think there's actually like any point denying the fact that this is like a clear-cut picture perfect impulse on the upside. But again, pay attention, we said this isn't really enough, and in the previous update we specifically said let's wait a bit more and see what the shape of our pullback is actually looking like. And I am happy to argue this, in my view, is a correction structure. Why is that? Couple of reasons. Let's just measure this move down from this high to about the current price action. Let's say even to about the lows in here. As you can see, this thing in XRP is taking us about maybe 70-80 candlesticks. On the other hand, this move on the upside only and only happened in about 20 candles, meaning what? Yep, despite having way more than enough time, it seems like that bears are actually failing to pull the price all the way back down to these levels, and this again is a very important characteristic of a correction structure. Do we have some more reasons to be optimistic and call for a rather good move on the upside? I actually think so, yes. You see, I'm not really sure if you are a fan of trend lines, but if you like them, then okay. I think we can say maybe this is like a bit of a trend line, and the main question is this: how many times have we touched this line? Let's just do a quick count. Excuse me, let's just do this. Okay, let's just consider this couple of times as just 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just go around here. Okay, this can be 5, 6, 7 times. Okay, oh my god, I just said 6, 7. 6, 7 times we are touching this level, and every single time we are getting some sort of a reaction from it. My nephew is actually watching this video, and I think she's actually going nuts right now. And I'll be honest with you, I don't really understand the meme. Anyway, let's just get back to what is going on in here. We are touching this trend line, in my view, more than a couple of times, and I do think this time in XRP, we are going to get a break of it and start a decent move on the upside. I'm going to say most likely maybe like a 15 to 20% move in order to get to about most likely the lower band of this region, about $2.5 area. And what are we going to do after we get there? I'll be honest with you, right now, I don't really have a good answer. Let's just have this move on the upside, and then we are going to talk about it. Now, let's go on maybe 30-minute time frame because I think I'm able to identify some optimistic signs. There we go. So here's the deal. I also think that this is probably another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up. So if we want to be like really, really optimistic, you can call this thing a wave 1, 2, and what's next? Good move up into wave 3, 4, 5, which on a higher degree, according to the most bullish case in XRP, can be into this wave 3, followed by a correction for 4, another move up into wave 5. Generally, if we end up getting a break of this important level in XRP, which the higher band of it is about, let's say, $2.8, at that point, we can actually call for almost like an instant move on the upside in order to take the all-time high about, I think it was somewhere around $3.6. Why? Because above this region in XRP, I'll be honest with you, we really do not have like a whole lot of strong resistances. So if bulls are strong enough to get a break of this level, yep, they are more likely than not strong enough to take the all-time high about $3.6. But I think, again, we are going to go quite a bit higher than that. For now, let's just not talk about those mooning scenarios. Let's just talk about having this 5 wave on the upside. And when we get it, and hopefully we are going to get it, we are going to make new updates and see what might be the next likely move. Now, let's go on XLM's price chart and see what is going on, because I do think we may have sort of kind of a similar situation. First things first, if you remember, the last time that we talked about XLM, we were right around these areas, and the idea was that, well, okay, this is essentially our make it or break it level, and under any kind of circumstances in XLM, we do not want to see a break of this important support, because this is sort of kind of the opposite situation of XRP. Under here, we really do not have a whole lot of strong supports. So we said, if we want to break this level, our move down at that point is going to continue possibly for another 30-40%, which is really not ideal. Now, I fully understand. Right away, you are going to argue that in XLM, since we are under this level now, this is broken, right? Well, not really. You see, this is from weekly and daily time frame at the same time. Meaning what? If you want to say this is broken, you need to go on weekly chart and see, excuse me, let's just do this, a candle close under here, followed by a pullback, and then a continuation of the move down in order to take this level. At that point, fair enough, this level is broken. So having said that, let's go on weekly time frame, zoom in more, see what is happening. As you can see, okay, you know what, fair enough, this can be considered as our initial candle close, but where is your pullback, and more specifically, where is your continuation of the move down? So since right now we're not having that continuation phase, I think makes sense to argue that this level technically is not broken yet, which was the very, very subject that we talked about in the previous video. I was like, well, okay, there's actually a chance that a lot of people have opened some long positions in here in hope that effective immediately we're gonna have like a massive bounce and they are going to make like a decent amount of money. Unfortunately though, market is not really that kind. So we said count on maybe another move on the downside in order to temporarily go under this level, but then like a very immediate bounce in order to do the very move that those people expected. But unfortunately in this space, they got their stop loss hit and they are going to cry about it quite a lot. And I think we are actually on track for that. Why is that? You see, this I think can be, excuse me, a decent bit of resistance in like very, very short term. And pay attention to how many times have we touched it. Essentially, this is like a similar situation like XRP. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, 6 and 7. So I'm gonna say, look, in XLM, most likely soon and hopefully soon, we are going to have a good move on the upside in order to break this level. And what really matters at that point is this: are we able to successfully reclaim this important level, which the higher band of it is about, let's say, 27.5 cents or not? If we reclaim it, I think it could be like an awesome sign. And if at the same time we manage to take this important previous major pivot high about 31 cents, that's just going to be cherry on top. For now, let's not really talk about these highs. Let's just focus on this move on the upside, and I do think that we are going to get it. Why is that? I actually have a relatively simple reason. You see, in my view, in XLM, this is probably a 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe to about this point, another move up into wave 5, followed by that, this can be something like an A, B, C flat down, and also this might be similar to XRP, actually, another 5 wave on the upside. So hopefully we are having bare minimum, I'm gonna say a 1, 2, and what's next? Decent move up into wave 3 and 4 and 5. Question: at what point should we maybe give up and argue this bullish count is not really going to play out? I think if we end up having from these areas in XLM a bit of a move on the downside in order to take this importance low about, let's say, 22.5 cents. At that point, yep, we should probably say, unfortunately, we're going to get a break of this level and continue our move on the downside. As long as we're not having that though, I do think it makes perfect sense to argue we're going to get a move up. And I want to be very clear, trading this move is actually going to be a little bit risky. Why? Because tomorrow we are going to have FOMC minutes, and around those times you are going to get some volatilities. May I suggest just wait 48 hours, and then if we were still somewhere around these areas and there was like a decent setup according to your strategy, you know what, more power to you. Feel free to trade this move on the upside. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in XLM's chart. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time with your family and loved ones. Goodbye.